Welcome to Unleash the Power, IBM and Beyond, the podcast where we dig into automation, security, modernization, and what's next for the IBM and beyond. On today's podcast, we're talking about why document workflow management matters more than ever for IBM organizations, and how to begin building a smarter path forward. Today's topic is one that always doesn't get enough attention, but it can be a huge impact on efficiency, visibility, compliance, and the overall customer experience within an organization. Today's topic is near and dear to my heart. I have spent over 27 years helping organizations on this exact topic of digital transformation and process improvement. So if there's anyone that needs a little deeper guidance, feel free to reach out to me to get some more deeper conversation on this topic. We all know in many IBM organizations today and in environments, the core business system is still incredibly strong. The ERP is stable, the data is trusted, the application is deeply connected to the way businesses operate. But in many cases, the way documents move through the organization have not evolved at the same pace. Invoices may still be emailed around, purchase orders may still be printed. Customer documents may still live in shared drives, inboxes, and disconnected systems. Approval processes may still depend on manual handoffs, paper, or simply knowing who to contact next. And that creates friction. So today I want to break this topic into two parts. First, why document workflow management is so important today, especially for IBM organizations. And second, how to start getting it implemented in a practical way without feeling you have to transform everything overnight. So let's start out here a little bit why this matters. When people hear the phrase document management, they sometimes think it just means storing files, but it's much bigger than that. Document and workflow management is really about how information moves through the business. It is about capturing documents, organizing them, securing them, routing them, approving them, retrieving them, and connecting them to the business processes that you rely on. And for IBM organization, that matters because so many important business transactions already live on the IBM. Customer orders, invoices, statements, shipping documents, reports, HR forms, business records, and also spool files. These are not just files. They are part of the flow of the business. And when those documents are still handled manually, the organization starts to feel it. It shows up when someone says, I know we have that invoice somewhere, but I can't find it. It shows up when a document is sitting on someone's inbox waiting for approval. It shows up when customer service has to call around just to find a backup for a transaction. It shows up when finance teams are printing, scanning, emailing, and rekeying information manually that should already be there. And definitely shows up when audit and compliance requests become a scramble. This is why this matters so much right now. Organizations are being asked to do more with less. They need to move faster. They need better visibility. They need stronger controls. They need to reduce manual work. And they need to make better processes to follow, especially as experienced employees retire and take that knowledge with them. For IBM shops, document and workflow management can be one of the most practical modernization steps they can take. And that is an important point. Modernization doesn't always mean replacing core systems. Sometimes modernization means improving the experience around the systems that already run the business. That is where document workflow management comes in. It helps extend the value of the IBM, making surrounding processes more digital, more connected, and easier to manage. Let me highlight a few reasons why this matters. First, it gives users faster access to business information. instead of digging through folders, email attachments, cabinets, printed reports. They can retrieve the right documents quickly. And when the documents are connected to the business data like customer number, invoice number, order number, or vendor records, users can find that information in the context of the transaction instead of hunting for a file name. Secondly, it improves process consistency. A lot of organizations have processes that work because certain people know how to make them work. But that is very different from having a process that is visible, repeatable, and easier for others to follow. Workflow helps define who approves it, what happens next, and where delays occur, and how expectations and exceptions are handled. Thirdly, it strengthens compliance and security. Documents often contain sensitive information, financial data, customer records, employee documents, contracts, reports. Organizations need better control over who can access those documents, how long they are retained, and what kind of history exists around them. A strong document workflow approach supports audit trails, retention, policies, security, and accountability. Fourth, it reduces paper and manual effort. IBM organizations still deal with a lot of volume of spool files, printed reports, statements, and forms. If those processes still rely on printing, sorting, filing, and scanning, or emailing even, that adds time, labor, and risk. Digitizing those steps can remove a lot of the friction. Fifth, it helps preserve knowledge. This is one of the biggest things that we look at in IBM organizations that we've seen. Many teams have longtime employees who know exactly where documents go, who needs to approve them, what exceptions exist, and how to work, how the work really gets done within the organization, right? But when that knowledge lives only in someone's head, it becomes a business risk. Workflow helps move the knowledge into a repeatable process. And finally, it improves the customer and vendor experience because document issues eventually become service issues. If a customer has to wait for an invoice, proof of delivery, or a signed form, that affects their experience. If a vendor invoice gets stuck in a manual approval loop, that affects relationship and payment timing. So when you step back, this is not just about storing documents. It's about speed, control, visibility, service, and scalability. That's why it matters. All right, now let's get into part 2 a little bit here. How to get started. Now, the good news is getting started doesn't mean you have to automate everything all at once. You don't need to boil the ocean. In fact, the best way to begin is usually to focus on 1 or 2 high-value areas where the pain is already obvious. The organization that makes the best progress are usually the ones that start practical. They look at processes that are repetitive, manual, time-consuming, or risky, and they improve that process first. So here is a simple way to think about getting started. Step 1, identify where the pain is the highest. Ask some straightforward questions. Where are the documents causing delays? Where are people still printing, scanning, emailing, or manually filing? Where do employees struggle to find what they need? Where do the approvals sit too long? Where do audits become painful? Where is there too much dependency on 1 or 2 individuals within the organization? For IBM organizations, common starting points might be accounts payable invoice processing, customer document retrieval processes, like in customer service, spool file capture and distribution processes, HR records, order to ship document processes, or just pure archival options for reporting. The goal is not to start everywhere. The goal is to start where value will be visible quickly. Step 2, map your current processes. Before automating everything, take the time to understand how the process works today. Where does the document come from? Is it generated from the IBM I? Does it arrive by email? Is it scanned in? Who touches it? Where is it stored? How is it retrieved? And also, who approves it? And then also, one of the biggest things that we look at is what happens when something goes wrong. This step matters because many organizations realize the real problem is not just storage. It is the workflow around the document. Now, step 3, connect documents to the business content. This is one of the biggest advantage IBM organizations have. Documents should not be treated like isolated files. They should be tied to the transaction or business record they belong to. An invoice should connect to the vendor and invoice number. Customer document should connect to the customer account or order. A spool file should be searchable using business data people already know. That is what makes document management so useful. Now, step 4, start with one workflow that matters. Pick one process to improve first. Maybe it is an invoice approval process. Maybe it is a customer service access to supporting documentation. Maybe it's better to do a more capture, distribution, and archive output from IBM I. Maybe it is digitizing a form-based process. Choose one area where you can clearly show improvement through fast retrieval, quicker approvals, less printing, less manual effort, and lower the risk. Step 5, focus on user adoption. Technology by itself is not enough. If a user avoids the system, the value never really shows up. So make the process simple, make retrieval intuitive, make indexing logical, make workflow steps clear, and the experience should feel easier, not heavier. That is exceptionally important in an IBM I organization where the best outcome often come from improving the way people already work rather than forcing dramatic change all at once. And then step 6, build from there. Once one area is working well, expand. More of a land and expand opportunity within the organization. Add more document types. Add more departments. Add more workflows. Improve retention and security. Connect more deeply to the IBM I processes already driving the organization. That is when documents and workflow management starts becoming more than a project. It starts becoming a platform for broader operational improvement. All right, so we're going to wrap up here with just a couple main takeaways. For IBM I organizations, document workflow management is not just about paperless or storing files in a better place. It's about improving the flow of business information around the systems that already run the organization. It helps teams work faster. It improves consistency, it strengthens compliance and security, it reduces the manual effort, it protects process knowledge, and it creates a better experience for employees, customers, and partners. And the best part is, getting started does not have to be overwhelming. Start with one painful process, map it clearly, connect documents to the business context, improve one workflow, drive adoption, then build from there. That is how organizations make practical progress. And for IBM I shops, that kind of progress can have a very real and immediate impact. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Unleash the power.